and welcome to this week's episode of No Bullshit Talks. I just want to say hi to all the recurring listeners who have been supporting the podcast so far. I want to say a massive thank you. And just a reminder that to hit that like and subscribe and follow button and leave us a rating or review, because you have no idea how much that helps us and how much we appreciate it, and helps me get amazing guests on the show every week, just like today's guest who I've got. And it's Mitch Gray. And I want to introduce you as an author, business consultant, and an inspirational speaker, just to name a few. But why don't you tell us in your own words today what you do?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for having me on the show. Our conversations before now have been amazing. And the podcasting world, for those that don't podcast or go on podcasts, so for just the people listening, it's a really amazing subculture that exists amongst podcasters. And so yeah, thanks. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a long time. So I have a book out, How to Hire and Keep Great People. And that's what I do. I teach business leaders how to build a great team, how to design inclusive and empowering culture. And really, my favorite thing about what I do is really helping leaders learn to empower themselves. Oftentimes, my specialty is small businesses. So, 20 million or less, teams of 100 or less. And really, those leaders, when you're talking about people that are starting businesses, running businesses, small businesses specifically, it can become incredibly stressful and overwhelming, and it kind of takes over your life. And so just a few days ago, I had a meeting. In fact, yesterday, I had a meeting with a client of mine that I'm actually getting to help in person right now, which is really cool. But yeah, we get to sit across the table from each other for an hour, and it basically became a therapy session to help him make some decisions and work through some things, even personally. And to be honest, that's the work that I really, really enjoy, is when we can really guide someone to find their real authentic place of leadership. Because when they find that, it impacts everything else around them for the good. So in long form, that's what I do, and I love it. I've been a speaker for, 2 decades now, over 2 decades now, 25 years. Love speaking at events as well. And so just trying to do good in the world, to be honest, and inspire as many people as we can. So yeah.
Amazing. So thank you so much for coming on today and helping me inspire all my listeners too. So
yes,
I know that it's going to be a great one. And you've already mentioned about, helping business owners hire. And oh my God, that is a major stress of mine at the moment. And every other business owner I speak to, it is the bane of our life right now. I mean, I don't know, how much have you seen the effects of the Great Resignation happening on your clients? Because over here, it feels like everyone can't find good staff, and then there's all these candidates saying that they can't find a good job, and I'm like, are you joking? Like, everyone is, it's so difficult at the moment. I feel like the quality has gone down, and it's just impossible. So like, how are you finding your clients feeling about this at the moment?
The same, really, the same. I do think it's a worldwide. Let's, kind of for the premise of today's conversation, we'll talk about the modern world. So where you are, I'm in America. I have many friends in Canada, North America, that same issues. I talked to a client the other day who's in Italy, same issues. And so it's a common thread. And really everything that I teach is based on human behavior. And so what we're seeing is just a basic human behavior response. And it's really kind of, if you take a bottle, and the top of the bottle is normally thinner than the body of the bottle, and if it's a carbonated, fluid like a soda, and you shake it up, all that pressure rises to the top, and so when you open it, it just explodes. And that's really what happened in the job market the last couple of years. A few things happened simultaneously. Businesses were hit terribly by the pandemic. They either had to close temporarily, they lost customer base. So that impacts revenue. When you impact revenue by lessening it, you impact resources. You can't hire as many people. So people had to scale back teams. That was happening simultaneously with employees getting let go, or all of a sudden being given permission to go, I'm going to take my career into my own hands. I'm not going to allow someone else to dictate what I get paid and when I work. And the crazy thing is, for the first time in modern history, the employees had the advantage. Because now all of a sudden, in fact, all the reports that are coming out, that businesses that allowed their people to work from home, productivity went up on average by 50 to 60%. They were working less, working more advantageously and more efficiently. Now, all of a sudden, businesses are saying, well, we want you to come back to the office. And people are saying, why? You can't give me a justifiable reason.
I want to know where these reports come from, because I have not seen this. I swear that I don't know if it's just the businesses that I know and we've just had lazy people, but oh my God, like our productivity crashed massively. Like I couldn't, and like, and generally when we hire people remotely, we can't even get hold of them. Like, you know, we're expecting them to log on. They haven't logged on for 3 days. They haven't done any work, and we can't even get hold of them. Like, it's not like we can turn up on their doorstep and be like, guys, why aren't you working? And it's like, you know, which I probably should have done. That would have been epic. I feel like it's like you don't log on for 3 days, and I just knock on your door and be like, hi, and they're like, oh crap. Like, you know, or they probably wouldn't even be there. That's probably the irony of it. But you know, I haven't seen this, and I feel like I see these reports everywhere, but I feel like someone's fabricating these reports to justify working from home, because I just don't believe it. I don't see it actually happening.
So there's two sides of the coin. The pain points that you're identifying are real. What I've seen is they're more real for small businesses than they are for corporate. So I will say, when you look at data, I do believe it shows an average trend. But when you look at data, you're also looking at business as a whole. So about 92% of the world marketplace is small business. So 20 to 25 million, 100 or less. Okay. But the problem with that is what tips the scales in a lot of data is when you throw in companies like Amazon, Google, Apple, you know, these worldwide companies, and there's a whole list of them, Fortune 500 companies. They tip the scale because they have 10,000 employees. You know, you may have 8 or 10, and you are along with the other 90% of what holds up the world economy. So you are seeing what you're seeing is truth. I will say some of the people that I work with that have more small, medium businesses, so maybe the 50 to 100 threshold, they are seeing more what the data is showing. And so really small business, like what you're dealing with, is really the micro. And a lot of those people are dealing with, again, I was talking to a client the other day, same pain points you're pointing out. It's the restaurant industry. They shut down their lobby. They did drive-through only. Well, now they're trying to open their lobbies back up, and they're having a hard time getting people to come in and work. And so really kind of going back to that idea is we simultaneously had all these phenomenons that we had never dealt with happening all at once. And now I will point to what you were dealing with, along with many other people. The reality is, pre-pandemic, those businesses weren't set up to hold remote workers. And so when you have a team of 8 to 10 people and you don't have systems set up to help remote workers succeed, it's really difficult to transition into that. And it caught everybody by surprise. And so now all of a sudden people are going, okay, if we want to keep remote workers, what systems do we need? And you hear that conversation a lot. They're finally reflecting on what you just said. They're not showing up. They're not checking in. Well, there has to be a totally different set of systems for people that you don't see face to face. When you see people face to face, you have a kind of a natural accountability built in because you're in person. And people just weren't prepared for that. They just weren't. Simultaneously, I actually have a belief that most people in leadership positions, they've never really been taught how to recruit and hire. And so when you've never been taught how to recruit and hire, and now you're all of a sudden in the market that you mentioned where people are saying, well, I can't find jobs because the market is saturated with people needing to work, but the market is also saturated with leaders that don't know how to hire. And so you again have this kind of simultaneous phenomenon happening, and workers are frustrated, but leaders are also frustrated. And so it makes a really interesting dynamic. And it's really a dynamic that if everyone keeps pushing defensively, it's going to continue to combust. So at some point, people have to say, okay, as a hiring leader, as a leader, I'm going to learn how to hire and recruit the best people for my team. And they are there. I don't call this the Great Resignation. I call it the golden age of hiring. And I call it that because there are more quality people without work right now than have ever been. And also, there are incredibly talented people who have jobs that are looking for a change. And so for a great company with a great culture, now is the time to be hired. It's an insane time. There's so much opportunity.
Okay. So what you said is that leaders don't have any hiring training, which is completely true. Like no one's stand us down. I mean, like, but also like where do we get this training from? I know that's what you do, but I'm saying that in general, it's true. Like there seems to be training for everything, but no one thinks to take the leaders and be like, right, this is how you do it. So I kind of want that training right now. I want to know as a leader, how do I hire the right people? What do I look for? What should I be doing? Because no one's ever explained this to me. Like I've just kind of thought, oh, I know what our company culture is. I know what we're looking for. I know skills gaps. I know soft skills. I know what I'm looking for. But really, am I doing it right? No one's ever taught me this. So see what you can do in the next, I don't know, give me a 5 to 10 minute crash course in how I'm supposed to hire the perfect candidate for my company. What do I do?
First of all, I want to affirm that struggle, because that's the struggle that 99% of leaders deal with, which is really what motivated me to write the book and to create the course, because I didn't find the resources that I needed 20 years ago. And I didn't find the resources now, 20 years later, that you could use. And so the first thing I like to start with is it's just like marketing 101. When you go to set up a business and market, you're going to create an ideal client. Now, you're going to add additional clients, but really you have to have that ideal client to market your product toward, so that you can kind of gain bonus clients. It's the same idea when you're looking at creating the perfect persona for a teammate. What type of personalities do you want? How do you want to balance your team with those personalities? What type of work ethic do you want to see in those people? What type of skill set do you need on your team? And it can be, if you have a team of 8, you're probably going to need 4 or 5 different skill sets. What type of cultural representation do you want at the table? You really need to reflect the audience that your product is headed toward or that you're serving. You need to reflect inclusivity. So really, if you can create the perfect teammate persona, that gives you, in fact, I know companies that actually have printed, like they've created 3 or 4 teammate personas, and they print what that person, kind of looks like, where they live, what books they read, what coffee shops they go to, what styles they kind of, move toward. And so a game you could play is get some publications or go online and just pull out kind of random thoughts. I really want this type of personality on my team, and I also want this type of personality. When you can create that roadmap, that first step alone gives you some organization. Then the question becomes, where do I find those people?
This is crazy, because this is literally what I do for my clients on a branding perspective. And I'm not sitting here going,
exactly right.
This is literally what I do. Yeah. We create brand personas. You're saying it sounds ridiculous printing them out. I design them and create their little avatars and say who they are and where they shop and their favorite brands and all that kind of stuff, their favorite TV shows and all that kind of stuff. I do that for my clients on a branding perspective. I never even thought to do that in terms of a hiring perspective. So I'm like sitting here going, oh my God, why did I think of that? I literally do that already. It's so crazy, but okay.
But it makes sense, doesn't it? Because you get results 100%. From it, and it gives you a plan and an identity. And then you simply ask, just like you do in marketing, where do those people live? Where do they exist?
And how do I talk to those people? Because that is what I say to my clients. Like, you don't. How can you craft your brand message and put the copy on your website if you don't know who you're talking to? So actually, who am I writing my job description towards and my job advert to? Because I haven't even created this brand persona. I feel so stupid right now.
But that's exactly the response I get from every single leader I present this to. Because I said every leader running a successful business has done this when it comes to their product or their client base. And then I paint that picture like, wait a second, I know how to do that. Yes, you do know how to do that. So just do it when it comes to building your team. And it's a really fun, you're a professional at it. And so take that same approach and apply it to building your team. And then again, all you're asking is, where do I find those people? Where do they exist? Where do they function? What do they do? What hobbies do they have? And the great thing about hiring, just like with your customers, is once you find a few of them, you will find many of them. Because birds of a feather flock together. The common interest people do common interest things. And so it's no different than marketing a product, a brand, an idea. It's the same thing, and you're just applying it to building your team. Then your question was, well, then how do I write a job description? Guess what? You know your culture. You know what you need, and now you know who you need. So then the next thing is, why do you need those people? Now that's larger than job description. What I like to tell people is put the job description aside for now. And when you discuss your why, talk about, why do you need those personalities? Why do you need those skill sets? Why do you need an introverted person and an extrovert? So you're finding balance on your team. Then you bring the job description in and you go, okay, how are they going to fit these roles well? Because what we're looking for is alignment, because everyone is experienced. When you have one or two people that don't align, especially on a small team, it really messes up the energy of the team. It just does not work. So when you know who you need, where they exist, why you need them, the job description kind of takes care of itself, because now you're selling someone on culture, not on a job. And when someone buys into your culture, they will do their job very well. But if you don't have an identity for that culture or how they're going to fit, you're going to miss every time, unless you get really lucky. Sometimes you get lucky, but you really can put strategy to hiring and recruiting. And it's really that simple.
Oh man, you've made me feel so stupid about it. I feel like I've been
Sorry,
doing,
I didn't mean
I feel like I've been doing like this for my clients all this time, and my secret potion to actually finding the right candidate is right there in my head. I just didn't even realize, but it's so obvious. Like I'm sitting there writing a job description, like how do I sell my company to these people? But actually, I haven't been speaking to them, and if I know who I'm trying to hire, then it's really easy to speak to them. And so it's the same thing in the branding process. I just need to do this. Okay, so that's great. That's a good start. Okay, so I've got that. But my next problem is we're a small business. How do we stay competitive and attract good talent compared to the big guys out there? Like, I put a job description out the other day, and I was putting a story out on LinkedIn about how we're struggling to find good web developers, and they're like, oh God, you're only paying up to £85,000. You know that graduates get that like from Google. I was like, okay, so go to Google. Like we can't compete with that. But that is a lot of people's attitude. And I feel like social media hasn't helped, because a lot of these big guys are like stepping up now and talking really publicly about what they're offering. And I feel like COVID has caused a sense of entitlement amongst like candidates now. And like you said, it's definitely their market. They're in control. They have all the power. And like, there were so many stories where I've got other company owners saying that the juniors who were like originally on like say 25K, and this is pounds, by the way, so it's not as bad as it sounds to the US audience, who are now demanding 50K. Like, and they haven't changed their value that they're offering to the company, but they feel that they are entitled to that now because that's what other people are supposedly on. And it's really difficult. I just feel like as a small business, there is no way I can pay what Facebook, Google, all pay. Right. And obviously I never can. So I know that obviously not always the same type of people who want to work at those companies will want to work at a small business, and the people who do, that's obviously part of the first exercise why I need to speak to those guys. But at the same time, how do you think small businesses can stay attractive to the talent out there compared to what other people are offering?
Right. My immediate response always is, because you're a small business. That is the greatest selling point you have. And here's why I say that. Again, I want to refer back to what I said earlier, that everything I teach is based on human behavior. Here's what we know about humans. People take a job for money. They don't stay because of money. That they just don't. People may take a job at Facebook or Google for that much money, but if it's a really frustrating, disconnected job in a year, they're going to leave. And so as a small business owner, what you're looking for is telling your story in a way that shows your assets. I'm the owner. You get to interact with me every day. Our team is small, and we do really awesome things by supporting each other, by having parties, by, coffee Fridays, by eating lunch together, whatever that looks like. There are so many awesome incentives that small businesses have to offer that oftentimes leaders forget. Because again, a small business leader is oftentimes wearing so many hats, they forget to just simply be the leader. And that's what humans want. They want interaction. They want engagement. They want affirmation. They want strong, vibrant, empowering culture. Corporate America can give that to a point. But at some point in corporate America, you do just become a number. In small business, you're always a person. And so when you can wrap your story around those assets and then know who you're going to tell that story with, an approach to recruiting that I love. It's very different in today's day and age. A lot of people don't use it because we do have technology. I call it lifestyle recruiting. So every single day I go get coffee. I go to the grocery store. I go, to the bookstore. I go somewhere, and I meet about 10 to 12 people a week that I would personally recruit. Now, here's where I'm going with that. When you're a small business, you have the advantage and opportunity to engage with that person on a basis over time that builds a relationship. You have a trust factor that corporate America doesn't have with that person. So when the day and time comes that maybe they're looking for an opportunity and you have an opportunity to offer, you actually have a leg up. Even if you're paying decently less than a corporation, you have a leg up on that person. You know them. You've heard about their family. You've ordered coffee from them 50 times. You've seen their work ethic. You've seen their personality. They have proven themselves to you. And so those really do become the selling points of your business. And so money is important. And you're right. Small business most of the time won't be able to compete with corporate America on front side pay, on benefits. What they can beat corporate America in is culture, engagement. Hey, I'm going to be there for you every day. I am the owner and I'm going to personally train you on X, Y, and Z. Hey, you know what? You get to have a say in the ideas we take part in. You actually get to work with clients personally. And in your industry, in fact, I mean, you're full of creatives. Creatives love nothing more than actually getting to be in the process. And so what happens over time is most corporate America people that take a job for that money find out quickly that they're just a number. And so they often leave. I was talking to someone last week, same situation, working for a corporate company, and they're like, I just can't do it. Like, I can't do it. And they're working remotely. They're very unattached. They're not a part of the team. And so if a small business came in right now and promised those assets to that person, they would take $10,000 a year less, because money can't bring that type of satisfaction. If it's misaligned, if their experience is negative, if their stress is high, if they're missing out on their family and their social activities, they'll replace $10,000 with that. And you have to trust that. You have to trust that and fully believe in it. And so, you know, some people say, well, but I'm missing opportunity. And my question is, well, how much opportunity are you actually looking for? So sometimes we are missing opportunity, but we're also missing the opportunity that we're not ever thinking is available, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I just think that I totally get it. I think that, you know, I wouldn't want to work in a company like that. And that's obviously why I run my own company anyway. But yeah. I think that my issue is that, say, you know, if you've got a candidate right there and they seem ideal, but they're like holding out for a bigger, better job, then obviously you haven't sold yourself on your company. And I feel like sometimes these guys, I've had candidates before decline our job, go work for a big bad, well, it's not corporate America here, is it? It's like whatever, but you know, a
big company.
Yeah, a big company in the UK. And then they were like, oh, we're being treated so badly. There's no respect. Like, you know, I'm working all night. The work-life balance is awful. Like, and they regret it and want to come back. But by that point, it's too late. And I think that's the issue, is making us attractive first. And I think that it's interesting because you just mentioned all those little things about how, you know, it's really personal. They get to work with the leader right there and then every day. They're very much an integral part of the company. They're hugely integral because they are a larger percentage of the company. Like I said, in a 10-person company, they're 10% of the company. In a big organization, they're just a tiny fish in a big pond. And so that's what they've got to realize. And I think a lot of people do appreciate that. And actually, they've got more career progression because they're in there at the beginning. And say if the company does grow, they become a leader very quickly instead of trying to work themselves up from the banks. It's a very different thing. But I think, you know, it's funny because I can communicate that with clients. That's the reason why they choose us as an agency rather than a big agency, because we give that personal service. They get to have the person with the most amount of experience, which is me, who's got 13 years of creative experience, and they get to work with me throughout the whole project. In a big agency, they wouldn't get that big senior creative unless they're paying more or whatever. They would have the junior creatives perhaps working on their projects. And it's a totally different thing. And it's interesting, again, that I can see how to sell that to clients, but I still can't see how to sell that to, and it's just like, I'm listening to it, it's like, oh my God, like, you know, it's just kind of weird that this is like, I'm already doing this, but actually not realizing I'm doing this, which is kind of bizarre. But I think my question also lies between, you know, obviously now, like I said, circumstances have changed, and you know, a lot of people are working remotely, and I think there's that thing where you're saying where people are like, I'm not going to come work in the office. And you mentioned like restaurants, and there's some industries and some companies which, you know, it's unavoidable that they have to come work in on site. with us, it's not essential, but to us it is. It's because, we have such a collaborative work processes in our culture. We, like I said, we do the lunches together. We have loads of socials where, we have a really great office environment. We want people to be part of that. And when people are doing this hybrid thing, and I've actually spoken to loads of top agencies, and they're saying that loads of the hybrid approach just isn't working for them, because you've got half the team are just somewhere else and they're missing out on the office banter, and they feel left out, and it just doesn't feel right, and the communication is just off. So I guess my question is about that, because a lot of people have said, obviously if we're offering just an in-house position, we're going to miss out on a massive pool of talent by doing that. But at the same time, we've always been kind of flexible, but we don't want to encourage that. So what we've had before is that, it's flexible working, but then people just don't bother turning up, and then it lets the team down, and they feel like it's, it causes friction in the team. So how do we find that happy balance? So say for companies who, because there are also lots of other companies out there, and talking from an agency owner, lots of agencies want to bring people back fully in-house, but they can't, because people are having that friction with our kids and all this kind of stuff. So when hiring now, what advice can you give to people who perhaps do want to have someone in-house full-time, but, will be a bit flexible, but want to reiterate that? How do we as companies do that and attract talent without alienating a large pool of them?
Yeah, that's a great struggle, especially right now, because there is a new expectation from the worker standpoint. Depending on the industry, obviously in a restaurant industry or a retail industry, people have to be there. But an industry like yours, there is the option of working from home. And really what that comes down to is you better have very strong systems in play. So what I mean by that is you have to have a system of accountability, a system of development, and a system of camaraderie and culture that keeps those people plugged in. And so, for instance, a few weeks ago, it was actually a government agency, and I was at an event, and they had part of the people tuning in via Zoom and part of the people in person. Well, they couldn't get all the Zoom stuff figured out. They did a terrible job preparing for that. And so the people on Zoom couldn't hear. And I mean, you could just see the disengagement. And that's very much, a perfect example of what you're talking about. The great thing is when you set those systems up, you're actually setting that employee up to live within your ecosystem. You're not hiring them for you to live within their ecosystem. You're hiring them for them to live within your ecosystem. Now, you're going to give compassion and empathy in that. But really setting those systems up for your remote workers to say, hey, here's the times we check in, here's the deadlines. And I would offer that the systems for remote workers are probably even more strict than the systems for people that are in person. The reason being is because of the issues you've just identified. Here's when we have check-ins. Here's when if you have supervisors or whatever, here's when you check in with your supervisor. Here's the deadlines I need, et cetera, because you are totally out of control of that person working when they're away from you. So there are systems and accountability checks that you can build in that are so important across the board, but especially with remote workers. And they sign off on those. They sign off in the beginning that I'm going to follow these systems, and we trust you. You trust us. We're going to empower you and give you everything you need to be successful. But here's the systems we follow. Now, where a lot of small business owners make the mistake is they incidentally forget the system. So they get so busy doing everything else that they forget the system they put in play. And I can almost promise you, I could walk into 70% of small businesses and they have some issue with their system. Not because they haven't designed the system, but because they aren't following up on the system. And so it's creating that, it's concrete, it's non-negotiable. Here's what we do. Here's when we do it. Nothing else, nothing less is acceptable. And so then as a leader, you're just empowering the system. And the great thing is, again, going back to human behavior, when you design a system for success that people can know, if I do this, my result is going to be very successful. All you're now holding that person accountable to is what they agreed to. So then it removes all the friction, because now you're just setting them up on a system they agreed to work within, with the promise that it will result in success if they follow the system. And so it becomes really simple from that aspect. And I love that as a leader, because once the system is in play, all I'm doing is following the system. I don't have to think about it. Everyone else is following the system. And the system, by the way, is founded on the culture we've set forward. And so when you can layer that on top of the foundation of the culture, then it becomes very easy to mitigate any issues that arise because we know how we can navigate them. The biggest challenge that leaders have is they often A, lead from assumption, and B, are walking blind. So they don't have the knowledge they need. And then they lead from assumption. Well, I just hired Susie. She's going to give me 30 hours a week working from home. She knows what she needs to do. I'm going to trust her. Mistake. I do trust her. And because I trust her, I'm going to give her a system that will help make her successful. That's how you bring about that opportunity to remove any of those issues that can arise.
I think like you've just summed up most small business problems, not just from a hiring perspective,
Yes.
but processes is like our buzzword at the moment in our office.
Right.
It's like I have been like, you know, that's what I spend all my time doing, that, making sure we have like good processes. And like, you know, it's just, I have to keep reevaluating them because of the fact that we've had changes and obviously with everything. Yeah. And I think what the issue is in small businesses, from what I found, you say about from leaders, you know, not implementing the system, it's because that benefit of the small business, of everyone being close, everyone being a family, it's harder to then be like, you know, why don't you check in with me? Because it's like feel like a more of a rigid thing. Whereas I feel like in a big corporation, it's like you expect, like a big corporation. So if you walk into Microsoft, you expect, okay, what are the rules? When do I need to check in? When do I need to do this? It's like school in some ways, you know, you expect that to kind of be like some sort of thing in process. Whereas like, I feel like a small, cute agency is more like hanging out with your friends, like in that sense. Like if you were to compare the two, like you go to school, you expect all these rules, expect teachers to be there and tell you off, and they're the ones in charge. Whereas like, it's more like, I guess, university, maybe, let's put it that way, in a way where it's a bit more chilled and you've got groups or you've got like that sort of stuff. And I think that's the difference, is that we have good processes and we've worked on that and we have systems, but I don't think I'm good enough at coming down on people when they break those processes. And I think that's the issue, and that really needs to be reinforced. And I think like the next question is like, you know, what you do you help companies create systems? I feel like it's good enough saying, oh, you need a system and you've got to buy by the system, but how on earth do you come up with a system that works for you? Because for sure there is not one system fits all. Absolutely not. Right? Every company is completely different. And you said it's based on culture. So how do you go about helping a company create the perfect system for them?
I'm going to keep it really simple. Because I love simplicity, especially in small business. The more simple we can keep it, the easier it is to follow. And to answer your other question, yes, that is a part of what I do. If you already have systems, and say someone wants to come on as a client and work with me, I review all of your systems, work with you and your team. Let's really keep what's really working, and then renegotiate maybe what isn't working. And then we can design from new and really marry those together in alignment with your culture, your vision, your mission. So that's exactly what I do. I want to keep it really simple. Number one, what do you need to get done? In other words, your business exists. What needs done? What is non-negotiable every day? These are the action steps that we have to take. You ask that question as a whole, and then you ask that question for each position. So if I have a graphic designer, what's the non-negotiable? What needs to get done to make us successful? If I have a marketing person, again, you just go through every job. By the way, I'm also giving you how to write an easy job description as well. So you're asking it as a whole, and then you're asking it within each role. The second question you're going to ask is, when does it need to get done? And so that's going to be a moving scale. And so what I'm alluding to there is you're going to give people timelines. We have 3 projects going. We're working with 3 different clients. Here's the timeline for each one. These are non-negotiables. Does everyone agree? So what you're doing there is you're actually bringing in, you use the word family. A lot of small business owners do. You're bringing in the family. You're all sitting in the living room and you're having a conversation around the fire. What needs to get done? When does it need to be done? Does everyone agree? Yes, everyone agrees. The last one is, how are we going to get this done? And so now all of a sudden you're taking these simple questions. You're giving yourself the what, you're giving yourself the deadlines, and you're giving yourself the how. At the end of that conversation, everyone listening needs to use this. Does everyone agree to this process? And once everyone agrees, your next question as the leader is, Do I have your permission to hold you accountable to this process? Because this is going to empower our success. So you've kind of made it a rallying cry. Everyone has come together. Everyone has made these decisions. And now you're asking for permission, which is big. I talk about that a lot with small business leaders. You must earn their trust and ask for permission. When you do that, accountability doesn't have to be an iron fist coming down. Accountability can simply be, hey, how's that project going? Remember, we need that done by 9:30 tomorrow. So let's get it in tonight. So if we need to make any adjustments, deal. That's all it is. And it's just a constant conversation. And what I love about small businesses and small teams is when you do it right, everyone gets to be involved in the process. So think about this for a second. I want to go back full circle. That person that you're sitting across the table from who is debating on working for corporate or working for your small business, just think if you could play them a picture of what we just painted. If you could just paint this picture to them and say, you know what you get to do with us? You get to be involved in this. How does that make you feel? Now all of a sudden you're playing on the emotion of human behavior. And now all of a sudden they're getting excited. And it's like, okay, do you want that excitement? Or do you want to know because your friend Bob told you that working for corporate burned him out in 6 months? You get to decide, but I'm just telling you what I can offer. I am telling you that if you did that 5 times a week, you would find incredible people because they want to work with a place that's magnetic, empowering, energetic. And now you've got your system of accountability. Now, the document, all you're doing is taking that process and documenting it. That's all it is. It can be that. I've seen businesses that literally make it that simple. Here's our systems. We've documented the simplicity and we follow it every single time. Or it could be a little more vast. It depends on what the leader wants. But that's as simple as it can be. And someone could do that today. It could be as easy as doing it today. And then you just hold everyone accountable to what they agreed to. Now people have empowerment. Now people get to choose. And when you put the ball in their court, hey, I'm just holding you accountable to what you agreed to. So let's work together on this. Help me help you because I want you to succeed. And now all of a sudden people are like, wow, this really matters. And what's crazy about that is when you function from that level of leadership, people actually appreciate you more because they truly see that you care and that you want them to have success.
Yeah, I think you've just painted a really interesting picture because I feel like when the team feel like they came to the decision together,
Yes.
It's a totally different thing, right? It's like
they buy in.
Yeah, it's not an order from above. It's their choice. Like they're the ones that decided to do this, so it's actually just they agreed to it. It's what their choices are. It's not an order. So it's a framing thing, right? You look at this in a different way, and I think it should change things. It's quite insane. I feel like there's so much we've talked about today. It's blowing my mind. But what's also blowing my mind is the fact that I'm thinking about it. I'm like, oh my God, like now I've got to put all this stuff into place and I'm going to do all this stuff. And I want to know from your experience, how much time realistically is taken up from a hiring process? Like there's a lot of time that goes involved in it. And, and I get why people use recruitment agencies, but I hate recruitment agencies. Everyone hates recruitment agencies, like because I feel like big agencies who, recruiters, a lot of them out there, they don't care. And like what the difference is what you said at the beginning is that you really care about the people you sit down with. You sit down with, have a coffee with them, and you get to know them. You get to know their pain points, and you want to solve their problems. It's a very big difference from a standard off-the-shelf recruiter who just see commission, and they don't care about where they're placed and the cultural fit. They just kind of like, okay, this person ticks this box, and therefore, if we put it in there, and actually, I'm going to negotiate your salary higher because it's in my best interest, not the candidate's best interest. And it's like and I just feel like there's that negativity, which is but I get that there's so much time taken, which is why people think it's worth paying a recruiter. But you also want to get it right, especially in a small business. So again, big companies, if they're just a number, recruiters will probably do a very, very good job. And a very small company, like we're saying, it's a family member, for the exact term again. Like, these people are you going to spend 40 hours a week with every single week. You want to get on with them in a smaller room rather than a different department. Again, you might not see them. So I want to spend a lot of time picking the right person for the job. But it's a lot, like going through, obviously, like I said, going through that now, like employee persona. That's one thing I had to go through. Writing the right job description, going through all the CVs, obviously initial interviews, we do skills tests, and then I go to and more interviews, and then like maybe assessment days and all these kind of things. Like what have you got any numbers that you've seen that kind of is an average time spent on recruiting per new employee, and what cost is that to a business? Because I'd love to know, because people think, oh, I'm saving money here and there doing this all myself, but I'm actually curious from your experience, how many hours are we talking on average, and how much cost in reality is it costing a business when hiring?
So I'm going to give you a twofold answer. I'm going to give you the concrete answer to that. On average, again, as we talked about in the beginning, these averages are a little bit fluid because you're throwing in some different size of businesses. But I want to give a twofold answer after that. On average, the Society for Human Resources across the world says that it costs about $4,000 to hire someone new. Now, that's not replacing someone. That's hiring someone new. If you're replacing someone, the average data says if it's a higher position, maybe a highly productive position, then you're probably going to cost about 200% of whatever their salary is, because you're replacing someone that's already productive. You're going to have a time lapse from the new person until you reach that measure of success again. So you have usually a 6 to 8 month range there where you're not going to have that productivity. So it really can cost a lot. Now, my twofold answer to your larger question is, I actually believe that obviously you need a specific strategy to recruiting. I believe that you need a specific strategy to hiring. I believe that you need a specific strategy to developing. You need a development plan for each person. Now, you're right. In the beginning, that's going to take time. But here's my deep-hearted, sincere belief. If you will take time on that now, in 8 to 10 to 12 months, A, you won't have a problem finding people. And B, you won't have to go through that process again. So it's really a one-time process where you're developing your perfect persona, you're developing your plan, you're developing your strategy. Once you have those in play, you don't have to redevelop those. The problem, and I want to say, I view all of this kind of like a toolbox. So equipment, I need different pieces of equipment to do different tasks. So there is a role for recruiters. There is a role for LinkedIn, Glassdoor, whatever else is out there, Monster, I don't even know, Facebook ad, whatever else is out there. There's a place for those. But on a team of 5 to 30 people, you should be hand selecting 99% of those people, because you know your culture. You know what you want. You know your persona. And even if you share those with a recruiter, they still don't know it. They have the knowledge, but they don't have the experience. And so you're actually going to hit a higher percentage of success when you and your team, and I'm going to add a caveat here, your customers. That is a great recruiting tool that many people forget. Take your best customers, your best clients, and ask them, hey, you've enjoyed our company. You've enjoyed our partnership. Do you know anyone looking for a great opportunity? It's that simple of a question. And I promise you, your best clients know someone. And so again, you're just setting that strategy into play. Now, here's the great thing about a long-term situation. Once everyone gets used to that recruiting culture, and your highest performers, your teammates, your family, your clients, your customers, everyone is constantly recruiting for you. This isn't a one-time and done thing. But once you get that in play, so I have a story that I love. 20 years ago, when I was leading a different business, my kids were really little, and we would go to a restaurant or go out to shop or whatever, and they had a game. Who is dad going to recruit today? Is he going to recruit the waiter, or is he going to recruit the manager? Because anytime I had a great experience, I was recruiting them because I want great talent. And so I was recruiting 30, 40, 50 people a week. And here's the saying I give to people. If you love your business and are passionate about your business, then recruiting people shouldn't be a challenge. Because really what you're doing is simply sharing the love and passion for your business with others, because you're constantly recruiting customers, or you should be. And so it's the same when you're recruiting talent. And so, yeah, it just became this game that, oh, dad's going to recruit. And then they would ask me later, Dad, did you hire that girl that you talked to the other night? Yeah, she came in, worked out, didn't work out, whatever. I get to decide that. So when you have those systems and strategies into play, they're a little bit expensive up front from a time standpoint. My point is, over time, you've actually invested once. And so then all you're doing is reaping the rewards, and you're not doing it alone. You're adding your team in on the fun, and you're adding your client base in on the fun. And if your clients love working with you that much, they want to send you good talent because they want to have that vested interest in your business. That's how clients work. They love it. And so, and you never know, a client may become an employee at some point in time. I've had that happen many times. You never know unless you ask.
Well, that's almost happened to me actually already. So
Yeah.
it's actually happened. So, you know, they've left their position and they're actually looking to contract with me. So it is possible that
There
can
you
happen.
go.
So
There
it's
you go.
definitely, it's crazy. But I know that I've just slagged off recruiters because I hate them. Like I have such passionate hate for them.
Well, I want to say though, you made a good point. They don't have your best interest at heart.
Right.
And that's the main, and when you're using things like Glassdoor, LinkedIn, et cetera, yes, you can find people, but those automated services don't have your best interest at heart. There's no way you can put into an algorithm your culture and experience. It's impossible to put that into an algorithm. And so you're actually missing out on people by using those services. So what I say is you want 80 to 90% of your team to be hand selected by your team, your clients, yourself. And then the others are just a bonus. If you find someone great on LinkedIn or through a recruiter, awesome. But I'm going to ensure, because you alluded to it, when you have a small team, every teammate has a greater ripple effect. Every teammate has a greater impact. If you have a team of 500, not so much. If you have a team of 10 and someone goes off the board, it really wrecks your team. And so I want to control who I bring into the family. I want to control who's sitting in the living room. And I can do it really easily. And honestly, once these systems are in play, it doesn't take much time. It really doesn't. It really doesn't.
So explain to me then, because I do believe that I there's no way that you could communicate culture and all that sort of stuff on these sort of platforms, and there's no way that a recruiter cares enough to learn. That's the thing. Like they've got a job to do. With some respect to them,
yes,
they've got a job to do. They need to earn money. So I'm being slightly unfair with them because I do get it's like a pretty difficult job that what they have to do, and you know, so I get that they can't sit down with you for hours and, you know, learn about who you guys are, what sets you apart, because they're probably having to do this for like hundreds of companies at the same time, and it's just kind of overwhelming. And then there's obviously some sort of conflicts of interest with the candidates that come to them and where they place them. So it's a bit difficult. But, you know, so tell me now why your service is different, because why aren't you just like another scummy recruiter out there? Like why is what you do so much better than just having a recruiter?
Yeah. First of all, I'm not a recruiter as far as like, I'm not a job placement person at all. I'm not a financial planner at all. I fully believe in my approach, because I've seen it happen. I've had over 5,000 employees in my life, and I would say I hand selected 4,500 of them. So I've seen it work. B, what I love about what I do is I can sit with you and I can say, okay, what process are you using? How's it working? Let's try this. Do you mind if we just try this and see if it works? And I've done it so many times that I know it's going to work. And every single time the light bulb, you know, you see it with your clients, the light bulb comes on. It's like, oh my gosh, this actually works. Yes. And you can do this. Really, my role is to be a facilitator of idealism and success. And I'm just a guide that walks people through the process. You can do this. It's not that difficult if you prioritize it and know how to do it. The reason people think it takes time is because they don't know how to do it. That's why they think it takes time. But again, if I just implement this into my lifestyle, if I just ask my team, and even a small business can do this, hey, set up some recruiting incentives for your team. Make sure they're clear on who they're recruiting. But if they send someone your way and they stay with you 4 or 5 or 6 months, offer that teammate a $50 bonus or a gift card or something just to incentivize that. And any small business can do that. And so I fully believe in the process because I've seen it work time and time and time again. And so when I walk with someone through that, I even take clients out when I'm working with them locally. You know, obviously a situation like, say, for instance, you and I would be a little different. But if I'm working with someone locally, I'll go out with them personally and we'll spend an hour going recruiting. And they get to hear the conversation. They get to hear me talk to people. And we can do that via video, et cetera. You know, if I have other clients I do have some that are long distance, but we'll just have those scripted opportunities. You know, hey, are you looking for an opportunity? Hey, do you know anyone that's looking for an opportunity? It's just a few of those simple questions that when you see someone working hard that really has a good energy, you simply ask those questions. What's crazy is when you ask, they always give an answer. They always give an answer every single time. They either say no or yes. And now you know. But you don't know if you don't know, and you don't know if you don't ask. And so it's just simply asking. Yeah.
I feel like we've made the hiring process so intimidating with this conversation.
Yes, we have.
So I want to now maybe speak to the people out there who are just starting out, and they're like, they're probably listening to this podcast thinking, oh, I kind of want to hire someone. It's about the right time to hire an employee. Maybe how should I do it? And they're listening to this going, oh my God, hell no. We're scared of the living daylights out of them. So I guess I want to, step back and speak to those people a little bit. When is the right time to hire? And I guess that, again, that is such a blanket question. There is no right time to hire. But I guess I would like to see if you've got any tips for people who are sort of starting out and they're individuals. And when are the warning signs there that it is the right time to hire? And how would they go about this? Because what we just spoke about is really intimidating. And I've been doing this for years and I'm still intimidated by the process. So I guess people who are new to it, where do they start?
Yeah, it's big. It's big, isn't it? It really is. I do want to say it's not unlike anything else in life. It's new, it's big, it's a little bit intimidating, but the more you practice it, the simpler it gets. I mean, I was scared when I first started out. I was really young, 21 years old, running a multi-million-dollar business, having to learn to recruit. I was like, what do I say to people? I don't even know what to say. And you just have to kind of be a fool for a little bit and just try it and know that it's fun. So for that person, let's get away from finances. Let's say they've created revenue. They have the resources they need to hire. I would say, first of all, if you're a little bit intimidated on having an employee, one avenue you can take is if you can hire based on projects. We haven't even covered the subject of freelance employees, which is a great way to go if you're a solopreneur and you're just kind of needing some project work done. It's a more inexpensive way to go overall. And it's a little bit easier to hire those people. And if you're kind of dipping your toe in the water of hiring, that's actually a great way to kind of get some experience. Hey, I can hire someone based on a project. And that kind of, eases the discomfort a little bit. If you're really ready to hire an employee, my question would be, do you share your business with other people? So in other words, do you tell the story of your business? Well, of course you do. It's the only way to be in business. You can't just unlock the door and hope for people to come. So my guess is that people have the courage to share their business. Let's say someone opens a pie shop and they're selling pies. They're going to share their great pies with other people. So here's a really easy step to begin finding someone. Go to your favorite trusted friends, share with them your new pie business, and then say, hey, by the way, I'm looking to hire someone. Do you know anybody? I'm just curious. And so you're not just having that solo conversation. It's now about you sharing your passion. And when you can tie that into your passion, it becomes much easier. And every single one of your friends is going to go either A, yes, I do, or B, let me think about it. Your closest friends aren't going to say no because they're enjoying your pie too much, right? So just ask and practice on your friends. And that's another key is don't be afraid to role play this. Don't be afraid to get a close confidant and just say, hey, I'm learning to recruit. Can we role play a little bit? I need you to give me every answer in the book, from telling me, no, get out of my face, to, yes, I'd love to have a job with you. And role play that and practice it. But start with the people that you know and then kind of work your way out. Most of the time, again, we go back to the saying, birds of a feather flock together. If you have a friend or a family member who's a hard worker, has great energy, and will align with your culture, ask them if they know someone that's just like that. They usually do. And you can start soft and then kind of move out into a little bit of the more treacherous territory over time. Yeah, that's the easiest way to go.
I guess if any of your friends do say no, then it probably
you need new friends. You need new friends.
Or you need a new business idea, because it's it might reflect on what you're actually thinking of. Because if your best friends say, actually, no, maybe it's, your business idea sounds really shady and maybe to pitch it better.
So I'm totally assuming that they went past that stage, but you're right. Before you open your business, find all that out first. Yes. Because if you're at that point, you do not need to be hiring anyone. No.
Well, I think people do that. They dive in because they're like, oh, I've got to hire people, I've got to expand my business, and hiring me a person, someone makes me feel important. And people do that for all the wrong reasons, right? And I think that feeling responsible for someone as well is such a big burden. So it's I have staff. So during COVID, it wasn't oh my God, how am I going to earn money? Mine was the fear of like, oh my God, I'm responsible for all these people and their livelihoods and their jobs. And people are like, oh, you shouldn't feel like that. It's not your responsibility. But it is. It is. As a small business owner, it's like, it's my responsibility to keep the business open so that they have jobs and they can. So it's a big burden. And I think that until you're ready to take that step, it's something that, shouldn't be taken lightly, because as we've talked about for the last hour, it's really, really hard work.
So, and that's why I would say make sure that you're working with an accountant or a financial planner of some sort. And again, that's not what I do, but because financially, you're exactly right. You want to make sure you have the resources to sustain yourself and whoever you're going to hire for a good long while. Most planners will say 2 to 3 years needs to be your kind of vision. It could potentially be a sales position where you're basing it on commission. A lot of times that happens, but even still, just make sure if you're in that stage of business, or I've seen people that have a team of 10 or 15, their revenue has gone up, their productivity has grown, but they're kind of like, okay, but do I hire 5 to 10 more people? Because that's scary as well. Again, have a strong financial planner, have a strong accountant, have someone that can advise you and go, you're not ready yet, because you want that honest feedback in that moment. You want them to tell you with clarity, yes, you need to hire 4 or 5 more people, or no, you don't. Then the hiring strategy can work itself out in a way. But until then, make sure you have the resources available, because, I've failed at business as well. And I've been in the moments that back in, what was it, 2010, 11 in America, we had an economic kind of crisis, and I had to shut down a business. I had to close the doors because that was the smart thing to do. And you talk about, having to tell people that and for myself, I went without work for almost a year because it was very difficult. And so, but we take those kind of quote failures in life and we really learn from them. And we kind of understand with more empathy and compassion what all this means. And so, it's more than just taking a dream and turning it into a business. It's taking a dream, putting application to it, making sense of it, then turning it into a business. And if you do it that way, you'll be successful.
Right. Exactly. But thanks so much. And I want to know also, where can we get hold of your book? Because we've learned so much today. I feel like other people are going to be listening to this thinking, I need to know more. So where can we get hold of your book?
So go to Amazon, especially people that are listening worldwide. It's available, How to Hire and Keep Great People. We also have a new course that we just released that's called How to Hire and Keep Great People as well. And maybe we can put that in the show notes. I don't know. But If you connect with me on like LinkedIn, I'm all over LinkedIn. You can find all my links there as well. Yeah.
So is that the best place that people can get hold of you? You think LinkedIn, add you on LinkedIn? Because I'm sure that people are going to have loads of questions after this, because I know I still do. And I think that's, you just mentioned that, we didn't touch on that, like freelancers versus full-time employees. I think that's another part episode that we could totally cover, because that's a huge debate that everyone always has. And so there'll be loads of questions, I'm sure, that we could bring up there.
Yeah. And also in the show notes, I actually just collaborated with a friend that we're offering a free curriculum on this one. And it is exactly about how to hire freelancers and remote workers. It's 7 sessions. We talk about that specifically. And we wanted to offer that free for people right now because we know that it's really a pain point. The How to Hire curriculum does have a fee to enroll in it. But it's both of those curriculums are amazing and can really, really help empower people. And I am accepting new clients as well. So if anyone's interested in working with me, I'd love to have an exploratory call first to make sure it's going to be a fit. I do that with integrity. And if I definitely don't think it's going to work, then I'm going to be honest. But I would love to talk to people about adding some clients too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that sounds amazing. And I'm going to put all that information in the show notes. And so definitely hit Mitch up for any of these hiring questions, because it's been a very complicated call, but a great insights. And I think I'm going to be going away and thinking about a lot of things today. So I just want to say thank you so much for coming on today. You've been a great guest, and thank you everyone who's been listening. And remember to hit that subscribe or like rated button to help support us. And I will be back next week for another episode of No Bullshit Talks.